10 minutes on implementing technology. 10 minutes on implementing technology. Now, if technological determinism was reflective of what actually is involved in implementing technology, I wouldn't be having this talk, because let's face it, technological determinism suggests that we have technology, it has to be put in, we will be structured in a particular way, we will undertake our business in a particular way because of that. The processes that we follow will be determined by technology, and how we measure it and how we perform will be in relation to what technology says should happen. But there are innumerable cases that suggest that implementation is nothing like that one. There are so many implementations that have become over complex or massively problematic and have been seen to fail at some level. So what is it that makes it so difficult? In short, I think you're starting to see what the answer is in the previous presentation, because it's that kind of combination of the business aspect, or what the organisation wants to achieve with it, the cultural aspect of what is it that we have within there and how do people understand what the organisation does and how they do their job, and the technical of what is it that technology enables us to do, or what is it that it is actually designed to do. So we want to try and look at this kind of interface between the social, the material, the cultural, and the technical. That's a really warm and really productive space for us. The model I've picked out is the Littonen and Newman's model, and I have to say that in places it's really overcomplicated. So when your little brains start to burst because you've got so many diagrams you can't figure out what they're talking about, it's probably about the time to finish up with it. The useful parts, as far as I'm concerned, concern their identification of 4 interacting environments involved in implementation. When you've spoken to people from Avivo, you'll have seen that there are those that are involved in the technical part of the implementation, and that's what they call, what Littonen and Newman identify as being the building environment. So that's really where your technologist live, it's where your agile implementation team lives. It's about those that are designing what technology was done and carrying that through to the point of designing processes and implementing that bit of it. Okay. You'll notice in my diagram that not all of that circle sits within the organizational environment, and that's for good reason. Often you'll find that in the building environment, in these implementation teams, you've got people from third-party software vendors who are there to help with the implementation, and you'll have business consultants who are there to try and help. And indeed there'll be contractors, there'll be testers and various other technical people who are there on different contracts. And that's significant when you start to look at who's influencing or how far is technology information from outside of the organisation being used to shape what the implementation is. Now clearly the building bunch, the building environment, are there to do one thing, which is to impact upon what they call the work environment, or I'd probably call the transactional environment. And you'll have seen and spoken to many of those people who are involved in the day-to-day business of doing insurance business at Aviva. So people within that work environment are really there to do the information related work. They are the ones that manipulate the data within the system. Again, you'll notice that not all of that circle, as I've put it on my slide, sit within the environment, the organizational environment, because again, you may have outsourced part of your operations, or you may have third-party organizations who will lean on or borrow or be syndicated to the technology that you're implementing. But the majority of what it constitutes the work environment will be situated within the organizational environment. And within that organizational environment, you've clearly got cultural implications but you've also got political ones of people within the organisation discussing and shaping what is this technology supposed to deliver for us. But then the influence doesn't stop just with that political decision-making process. The environmental context of the organisation are equally going to be complicit in shaping what technology is going to be doing. So some markets will become more profitable and therefore more attractive. Some of the adjustments to the technology might have significant costs, and the economic background to the organisation might preclude or make that possible. Or it could simply be the fact that technology within that environment and how it's applied evolve, and new information comes to us about what technology can do for us. So 4 interacting environments. But they move beyond that one to talk about 4 interacting and interconnected elements to any implementation aspect within these environments. The one that they pick out, and is probably the most convincing, is around about the building environment. And that's when they're within there, they say, well, within the building environment, you've got what we want to achieve, what are we going to do, the task, the goals and deliverables. And effectively, technically, what have we got to hand to do that one? So what's the technology that we are trying to implement? How are we going to do that one? What are the support mechanisms and technologies that we have in place? That relationship is mediated often through a project or structure, or some way in which decisions can be made about the future and process and deliverables for the project. So there's a project or an implementation structure, or in other environments there's a managerial structure. But it's not simply that there is a command structure, there's also a cultural situation. So you have different actors, different stakeholders who are going to demand different things of the implementation. So over on the right hand side you have different actors. Interestingly, in terms of thinking about the process of implementation, Littonen and Newman start to look at and think about the events that can impact on this socio-technical implementation over time. So they try and say that events precipitate sense making. They start to introduce uncertainty, which in my mind, and this is my extension of it, start to raise questions. So they say that events will start to impact on the interdependencies between these different elements. Starting over in the top right hand corner with a technology actor tension, an event might happen and suddenly people from within the context are saying, what is that technology doing? Why is it doing that way? Or in opposition to that, the technology might be saying, why do we have to do it this way? This is not the way that the technology demands that we should try and implement, that we should do stuff. We'll take it the opposite corner, the task structure tension, and there in that corner you've almost got an opposing to that to say, well, we know what the business is trying to achieve here, but the structure, the management of that project seems to be working against it. And that's the point where politically the project starts to not make sense, and there starts to be a tension about what are we doing here, why are we doing that, and eyes go to management or to the business. And that's kind of in opposition to the bottom right, where there's a tension between the actors within the organisation, those people that actually do stuff with it, and what are the goals and tasks that it's trying to achieve. And in there, the tension starts to manifest itself of going, it's doing it wrong. Whether it's the business and the people, or the actors, or the technology itself, there's a tension in there that says, well, we're doing something wrong. At the other side, there's always that looming question of going, will this technology do what we're wanting to do it? And that comes in the technology structure tension. Now, the interesting thing within there is, of course, those types of tension relate to the framework that we looked earlier in terms of trying to find ways in which common ground, common meaning, and common interests can be established. But I also wanted to situate that more broadly, because the thing that really strikes me about the Littonen and Newman model is that it relates definitely to the events happening within an overarching narrative or story of what is technology doing here. So events inform anti-narratives, little stories about what's happened within the project itself, and that pulls forth a response to say, oh well, that's not the story, and that story can reinforce anti-narratives or can negate them because they contribute back into an unfolding larger narrative of IT change. And it's within that one that you get this interface between technology informing the culture and therefore being castigated or created as being successful or a failure.